Good day, good people. Got another fun episode of Business Growth Time coming at you. Today, we're joined by my longtime friend and most professional speaker I know, Angelo Caruso. But before properly introducing him, I got to say hello to Janet E. Johnson, where the E stands for ebooks.
I know where that comes from.
Because we just heard it 13 seconds ago, and I have
Exactly.
a short-term memory problem, Janet E. Johnson. So, how are you? Are you happy? Things are good today?
Happy and good, and the sun is shining in Minnesota. Yes.
That's gotta love that. Gotta love that. All right. Well, we're happy about the weather. It's always nice when we're not freezing our butts off up here in the
Isn't
Great
it?
White North. It is. It is. Speaking of the White North, I'm going to introduce Mr. Royal Oak, Michigan himself, Angelo Caruso. I met Michael in early 2009, and I will tell you that there have been exactly two people in my entire life who, when they walked into the room, their energy just washed mine away. And Michael is one of them, right? I was like, who is this
That's
guy?
nice. Thank you. How do you remember 2009?
Because it was the day we did the social media event at Walsh College back
Oh,
in
that's
January.
right.
It snowed like 9 or 10 inches that day, and you came up to me and we were like, Joe Cool saying, "Where's Charlie Wahlberg?" Right? And that was our very first interaction. And I was like, man, who is that?
It
And I had
snowed. It snowed like Minnesota that day.
It did. It had Minnesota snow written all over it. Sometimes it snows in April, but that day it snowed in January. So it was totally cool and expected.
Janet,
So,
I'm on my way to Eagan, Minnesota to give a talk.
Oh,
another E-word.
And
I'm in
interestingly enough,
Farmington, which is like 10 minutes from Egan.
we'll have to get together. Interestingly enough, the visit is related to what we had planned to talk about today, guys, which is this idea of connecting with people and then making the connection worthwhile, maybe more worthwhile than it otherwise might have been. This is a former client of mine that I did work for in 2008,
Oh,
the year before my life changed after meeting Terry Bean. And I keep in touch with people with newsletters and stuff, and I'm not sure how people remember. I'm always flattered when they remember, but to have repeat customers is like the best compliment you can get in the speaking business. So I was so grateful to have them remember details about the event, all kinds of stuff.
That's
yeah,
awesome.
very cool.
So so we can frame this up. Michael is a professional speaker. He is a information provider. In fact, he's got over 50 information products. Some of my favorite things are his 5 Cool Idea series. He's an excellent blogger. He does a lot of video stuff. And then he's actually written some ebooks and some real books and just released work hacks. I've said it before, and I've said it 150 times before. Michael is single-handedly the most professional speaker I have ever seen. He doesn't miss
That's
a
a nice
mark.
compliment. Thank you.
Yeah, well, you are, man. You are engaging. You're fun. You go with the flow, but it's obvious that you were well prepared too. So you got the best of both worlds, man. You look like you're well polished and practiced up there for sure, but nothing really phases you, and you can turn on a dime. And I think both of those things are really, really important if you want to have someone call you 10 years later to come speak at another event. That's how that
True.
works.
Thank you very much.
Good stuff, man. Good stuff. So you nailed it. We're going to talk about how to serve your connections, right? So ultimately, your connections want to kind of return the favor and do something good for you. I love that topic. So where do we start with that, Angelo Caruso? Everybody's got 3 names. I'm gonna have to have a middle name on this podcast today.
Well, let's go low tech to start with. Let's just talk about old fashioned networking meetings where you actually meet somebody free and unencumbered from social media. The business card exchange is a very simple exercise that we all go through. I don't know about you guys, but I still attend an amazing number of events where a stunning number of people do not carry business cards with them. I don't know if they're too cool for school, because there are people who feel like they don't need to carry a card. But how can I follow up with you if I can't remember you? And how can I remember you if I'm drinking?
That's interesting. I can actually give you a pretty solid answer on that, though. As a
Yeah.
guy who stopped carrying business cards a long time ago and still attends a fair amount of networking events, the reason I stopped is because the amount of times I would call someone whose card I got, right? Because it's a card exchange. Here's
Yeah.
my card. You give me yours. The only reason I ever carried cards was to get somebody's card. The amount of times I'd call somebody and they say, "Oh my God, your card is sitting right next to my phone. I was just thinking about calling you." You've had that card sitting next to your phone for 3 weeks since I met you the first time. So don't tell me you were just thinking about calling. The
Yeah.
other reason is if I give you my card, who controls the follow-up? And that was the big point for me.
Okay.
Right? I can't follow up with you if I don't have your card. If I just give you mine, I may never hear from you again.
What about you, Janet? Do you carry cards or do you rely on the
I've done both. I've done both. I mean, I've done this 15 years. So bottom line is you Google my name, you'll find everything. But so there's that. And I am more social media because I do social media for a living. But bottom line is I went to an event recently and they were talking about personality types.
Yeah.
And it's interesting that Terry says this because I did not have cards for a while just because I ran out, not just because I didn't want, I just ran out. And I was particular about redoing it. I'm like, I need a new picture, blah, blah, blah. I'm picky about that. So anyway, bottom line is I went to an event and they said, if you shake hands with a certain personality type and they're expecting your card, you will lose them like that because I can't remember the type of personality, but whatever type of personality it was, you'll lose them like that if you don't carry a card because that's the expectation they have. So It made me realize, you know what, I may think it's not a big deal, but there are certain people out there that do. So I do have cards now, but bottom line is I'm kind of one of those, but I agree with Terry on his side, but there are certain personality types. So
it's a personal choice, right? We see all different combinations. We see neither person has a card. We see a person that normally has cards but doesn't. I've been caught without cards. I try to be good about it, but I run out.
You run out.
Yeah.
I gave out 30 of the cards I had today, and you're person number 32.
That's exactly right. But and Terry makes a good point about controlling the interaction. To me, sometimes control is a soft C versus a hard C. I think Terry probably feels that way. Funny story, I got into an Uber or a Lyft or something recently. Before we got in, the guy's like this. He's like straight arming us before we get in the car. And he says, what's your name? And I said, well, my name is Michael. He says, okay, you can get in. Because there's been a lot of people, there are so many ride-sharing programs now. A car pulls up, people get the car wrong, they're not checking the plate. They actually get in the wrong car and head down the road, which is a hassle for everybody. And so he was wisely checking to see who came in the car. And after we got in, I said, that's the first time anybody's shown interest in who I am as I get into the car. And I was also thinking quietly in my own head, there are a million other more polite ways to do it than what you did, pal. But he says,
not a customer experience moment, eh?
But he's defending his and explaining what he did, which I kind of expected him to do. And then I said, well, it's interesting that you kind of demanded I tell you who you are, but it could work the other way. You could just tell me your name, and because I have it on the app, right? And he said something fascinating, guys. He said, I never tell people my name. Ooh. I'm like, what? So it just goes to show you, everybody's got a different flavor for this. He wants to know who you are if you're getting in his car, but he doesn't think it's just as professional or just as reciprocal to share even his first name with you. And so it's funny.
Something to think about.
Yeah.
There is a standard of reciprocity there that he just kind of threw out the window, right? Can you imagine being at a networking event, introducing yourself by name and just standing there mouth agape waiting for them to
I know. And this reciprocity turns out to be the key, because when you're at an event, Terry, you've heard me talk about this before, the person who holds out his hand or her hand first has influence in the interaction because it becomes a little bit of a dance, right? Janet, do you like to dance?
Not really, but
if there's a Duran Duran song, Janet.
Sure, whatever.
Yes. When you hold out your hand, the other person's obliged to hold out their hand. Now, there are religions and people who don't like to shake hands, but it's a very, very small percentage. But let the dance begin, right? I hold out my hand, you hold out your hand. I say, my name's Michael. You say, your name's Janet. I say, I work in the such and such industry, or I work in the such and such. If I say, are you enjoying yourself today? You might reciprocate with an in-kind question. And so to the extent as influencers, and I think we all are, I imagine a lot of people listening are, and watching are, we can control, there's that hard C or soft C again, we can control the interaction right from the get by reaching out first and making it happen. Again, a lot of people a little bit shy about that, a little bit shy about going to a networking event and actually introducing themselves. It's bizarre.
It's interesting. Well, Janet, are you a get in the middle of the room and have people talk to you? I know you host events now, so it's a little different. But
yeah,
if you're
the ones I host, obviously, yeah, people come up to me pretty quickly, and it's, you know, so that's more. But I was at an event yesterday with a bunch of women. You know, I do a lot of women events, so it's a little different. But yeah, I walk. I mean, I'm one of those, though. I mean, you could probably tell just by my personality type here. I mean, bring energy to every event and the room and that kind of thing. So I'm definitely not shy or quiet or anything like that. I walk right up to people and say hi. So, but I've been doing the networking stuff for how long, you know, and you guys both have, it sounds like. So some people are new to it and they don't know. My husband, for instance, he can't stand networking events. Like he does, like, so it depends on the personality type and the people involved. And if you're new to it and you don't know what to expect, I think those are the best people for us who have been doing networking to really make sure that they feel comfortable, because it is tough for newbies.
I've been trying something new. I'm the same way, Janet. I've got so much energy. I sometimes scare people off, I think. I feel like I'm sometimes meeting people against their own will, you know? and so if I feel like you can't handle me, I dial it down in advance, because I don't want to scare you off. I'm not a large person, but I know that large people have trouble with this. You know, they're physically imposing. And so when you encroach on somebody, they get, especially if it's a smaller person. Or Terry's got a really deep and loud voice. Maybe that's a little bit too oppressive for some sensitive ears, right? So I try to play I've been studying a lot about psychology lately, and I've discovered that that sometimes less is more, right? Sometimes, and it's a trick, because I have to be less of myself, which is unnatural, right?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
And yet it works better, at least in the initial stages of a relationship. I'm connecting a lot with on LinkedIn these days, and you know, you have an opportunity when you reach out to someone on LinkedIn to leave a comment. And more often than not, and I know people coach about this, they say to leave a comment, you know, tell them why you know them or why you're reaching out. But if it's a bank or credit union and I want to do training for you, sales training or customer service training, I do not want to mention that in the first go, right? It's too much. This is my flavor anyway. I don't know if you guys have a different opinion.
You know what, I've done both, and I'll be honest, I think going in a little more discreet and a little more almost covert has a better impact. When you drill somebody over the head with "this is my intention," it causes people to recoil, because nobody still wants to be sold to. Everybody loves to buy. Don't sell me anything, right?
You know what works really well, I think, universally, is a just good old-fashioned compliment. And when I'm talking about this and writing about it, I get a lot of comments from folks that say, well, how can I compliment somebody that I haven't met yet? And it's easy, man. You know, I got a million of those just in my back pocket. Here's one that works almost every time. Now, you don't want to fib or seem disingenuous or slippery, so be careful. But a good solid line is, I've been hearing good things about you. I've been hearing good things about your company. If you can't get behind I've been hearing good things about you. Keep up the good work. If they're a speaker, I say, thanks for keeping the bar high in our industry, which I totally mean. I mean, I'm legitimate when I say that. And it's better than no comment at all, right? So now it doesn't take a lot of work to find out what I do and what I might offer you. So I try to keep the value prop one click away, if you will. If you go to my profile, you'll see right away on any platform. And maybe, I don't know how many people can tell when they meet me what I offer them. Sometimes I always marvel at how few people know how cool I really am, Janet. And I never get tired of
that problem too.
And I never get tired of telling them.
Is that a helicopter? Oh no, that's just Michael patting himself on the back a little bit. That's awesome, man. Love it.
That's great.
Well, I ask companies all the time, and I mean, I do a lot of small businesses, medium-sized businesses. I always ask them, "Who's your advertising company?" And, like you can hear a pin drop because either they don't know or they don't have one or both. And I said, "Well, that's all right. Who's doing PR for you guys? Who's your PR firm?" And we don't have one. And I say, "Well, then you got to fly your own flag. You got to tell people how great you are, not in a self-aggrandizing way, but what Dizzy Dean say? If if you've done it, it's true, right?
It ain't bragging if you've done it.
Yeah, it's branding. I mean, that's just branding for you.
Yeah. I mean, you got to deliver on the back end.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Well, and we have a lot of small business owners and social entrepreneurs and solopreneurs that are audience members here, Ernie. Hi, Ernie. And I think it's a really interesting point, and I struggle with this sometimes. It's hard to pound yourself on the chest and say how great you are or how cool you are. So congratulations for getting past that, Michael. And I know why you did that as a former band member, right? And we can talk a little bit about that history if we want to jump into it, because that's a great story too. But if you're not standing there telling people how cool you are, you darn well better figure out who's gonna, because if no one is, how will they ever know?
Yeah. So just a little touchstone for people that are unfamiliar with my sordid past. I came up, Janet, through the music business and performed in a touring rock band for 10 years on the college circuit. We opened for bands like Rick Springfield, Corey Hart, Joan Jett.
Nice.
And speaking to the millennials, the younger generation, I say we opened for Rick Springfield and Corey Hart, and they're like, I got nothing. Okay. Who those people are.
You wear sunglasses?
Only at night.
We didn't have a PR company, man. We were it. And one of the ways that we helped people understand that we were it, we were popular, is by being busy. And I use the same technique today. If I'm on my way, I'll do it right now. It's called an incidental credential. I just got back from the second largest state, Texas, where I had a leadership conference, a keynote that I delivered, and I'm on my way to the largest state, Alaska, to do training up there. And so, I'm busy and I'm out there. And so by proxy, you may assume that I must be popular or good at what I do or expensive or whatever, wherever your brain fires first is fine with me. But I don't keep my itinerary a secret. And I don't know many good speakers that do. They want you to know that they're busy because it translates into another value prop, I think.
I agree.
That's an excellent point, because I remember getting emails from you, Michael, that listed that itinerary out, and it was like basically a 4-week calendar, right? And maybe you didn't change it, and you saw a little bit of last week, and maybe it was the middle of the month, and you'd see into the maybe even the next month. So maybe it was 6 weeks out. But it never really clicked until you just said it, that's exactly what you were doing.
And some of my closest friends would chide me about that, and they would say, "Why do you do that?" And one good friend said, I don't even read your emails anymore because your signature file is so long. And it hurt me when he said that, because he's my pal and I want him to be interested in what I'm doing. I'm interested in what he's doing. Mm-hmm. If I had catered to all the people that said, don't do that, I would have lost the results of that technique. I just finished reading Gary Vee's book, Crushing It, which is now
I have it, and I have a picture with him and the signature.
She went to meet him over Super Bowl weekend.
Good for you. And he talks about how you don't manage your mix, and you don't manage your marketing to the lowest common denominator. You manage it to numbers and what's performing for you and what's working. I have friends that say I post to Facebook too much. I am always at 5,000 friends on my list. And it's okay if you want to unfriend me. I'm sorry to see you go, but I'm going to replace you with someone who's even more interested in me than you are. And that'll be a better relationship for me in the end, and probably a better relationship for you as well. So it's interesting how emotion plays into this, and it's all part of the same thing, right? It's how we present ourselves to people. Do we feel bad about it? I have a psychologist friend here in town, Terry, who says that being self-conscious can ruin almost any interaction.
Oh my gosh, I completely agree. Terry and I have actually had that conversation, because we talk about how we get in our own head.
Oh yeah.
You know, we all get in our own head.
Did I do the right thing? Should I say this? No, I might hurt somebody's feelings, even though 90 out of 100 people are going to appreciate it, right? And I'm not saying you shouldn't self-edit, but it's a combination of instinct and experience and numbers. You know, anybody that's on social now that's not paying attention to their numbers is wasting their time. I'm talking about marketing, not just connecting with people.
Right, not just social, but social as a way of driving traffic to you or your business.
Exactly. It's so funny you say that, because my coaching call that I'm doing it in 1 hour is all about how to track your numbers. Isn't that interesting? So how to read your numbers, you need to know. Mm-hmm.
And you could do analytics, but a lot of people don't have the patience for that. So one easy way to do it, say on Facebook, is to try to get a minimum number of pieces of engagement per post. Like my magic number right now happens to be 10. And if I get a post that's flat, when I say engagement in this order now, it's emoticon from least to most important. An emoticon, like not worth much to me, man.
That was the wow face for you listening.
It's like a half a point. So it's emoticon, then a like, and then a comment, and then a share. And people ask why a share is worth more than a comment, because a comment could be really a good comment. But the share's magic, man, because the share goes out to everybody they know, where the comment's only read by people I know in that thread, right?
Exactly. Yep.
So I've become enamored with this idea of cross-pollinating the platforms, especially now that everybody's only sharing. Terry and I were chatting about this the other day. LinkedIn, Facebook now favoring in their algorithm only native videos. So there's still, some are still getting out. Like Terry saw one of mine that was non-native on LinkedIn, but you're better to post the same video to LinkedIn, Facebook, and YouTube than you are to post the same video or to share the YouTube link to the other two platforms. So I have a trick for anybody that's listening that I've been doing for a little while, speaking about, you know, connections and making the most of them and showing people how you can serve them. Is to go to LinkedIn to your recommendations. And LinkedIn's recommendations is a very clever thing, guys, because it's like you have to feed the monster. If you haven't received a recommendation in a while, your most recent is at the top. And it'll make you look like you're inactive, right?
Oh.
So you got to constantly be asking people for recommendations, even though you already have 300, right? Because it'll make you look like you're old yesterday's news. So here's what you do. You go to those recommendations and you have a little screenshot like this, and you find a portion of the screenshot that reads really good. You know, because a lot of those recommendations, they've got typos or they have issues or some are more valuable than others. And you do a cluster, what I call a cluster of LinkedIn recommendations in a screenshot. And then you save it as a JPEG, which can be easily shared to your Facebook profile. You see, the only people that see the good news about you on LinkedIn are the people on LinkedIn. So how cool is that? For those of you that have a better following, a bigger following on Facebook, you cross-pollinate. And of course, if you did it with a LinkedIn URL, Facebook would throttle it. But they won't throttle the JPEG.
Mm-hmm.
Good point.
That's really sharp. I just got one of those fancy little LinkedIn recommendations this morning. So
good for you. Well, of course, you can do the same thing. Once you have the JPEG, it can go to Instagram. Twitter. Right?
Yep, exactly. We actually do that with one of our clients right now. Similar thing. We take the Amazon reviews and we repurpose those because they're a product. We repurpose that to Facebook, Instagram, and Pinterest. So yeah.
I love it.
Is that, you mentioned the phrase, and I love this, incidental credibility or incidental credential is, I believe, what you actually said.
Yeah.
This is more like purposeful credential at that point, eh?
Oh, for sure, yeah. Well, think about this. Think about something like a Facebook photo, cover photo, which is typically the longer photo at the top of your feed, right? Top of your page. We like to put up landscapes and crowd scenarios, you know, motivational quotes from Albert Einstein. Well, what about a testimonial about how great you are from a third party, right? I tell audiences that if you tell people how great you are, it's advertising. But if another person says how great you are, it's the truth.
That's right.
And
Especially
so
if they actually know that person, right?
that
So
would be nice.
that's,
Well, they have
amazing.
to take it on faith, especially if the testimonial is real personal. Like I just got one today that said that he enjoyed my keynote last week, right? In fact, it's on my Facebook feed right now in the cover photo. But I had to doctor it a little bit to make it fit, but I don't think he would mind me doing that. And so it's very clear that this guy hired me, very clear that he loved me. And so it doesn't look like I'm patting myself on the back too much in the comment section or what's it called? Not in the graphic itself, but the description of the photo, because the
Yep.
cover photo has a description.
Yep.
I said, this is the first email I opened today. And I've done this before, and I say, wow, this made my day. Because everybody can identify with that, right? When someone says something nice about them, everybody likes that feeling. So I try to take the edge a little bit off of the self-promotion thing, but it's never going to go away completely because that's who I am. I don't have an advertising company, at least right now. I don't have a PR company. And I don't mind you knowing that I have something to offer you. So I'm unashamed about offering, and I'm unashamed about telling you about it. And by the way, I'm not everybody's style, everybody, you know?
Well, you're not only do you not mind people knowing about it, your livelihood depends on people knowing it, right? If we're not putting it out there, it's really tough to do a bunch of speaking gigs sitting in your living room.
Well, the webinar business is alive and well, but outside of that,
Yeah.
I make more money when I leave the house. I don't know about you guys. And this isn't about money.
But I have a different type of business, but
that's okay. And the model's changing, you know. I think everybody's experimenting with webcams and what can be done with it.
Part of the reason we do this show.
Yeah, but that's exactly right. I like this idea also of promoting other people. So we all know people who are on social and at networking events where it's all about them all the time. And so I make sure that my mix is, I don't know what it is exactly, 50-50, 60-40. I haven't actually calculated it, but I do a lot of shout outs for people in the business or people that I respect. And if I get treated well by a client, I'll tell everybody, you know, I'll tell everybody how great you are because Janet and Terry, this has been a very conversational. I've been on with people that have it's all scripted and tight, you know, and he's so concerned about hitting his buttons that it's an unnatural exchange. This has been very normal, I think, a high-end type of a conversation.
Mm-hmm.
That's exactly right.
That's the goal.
So I'll do you guys a shout out after this to tell everybody how much I recommend your podcast. And so it's not, you know, if you have this stripe that you're generous about complimenting others, again, it takes the edge off people thinking that you think you're pompous or arrogant, right?
I think that's a great point. It's give but you also have to, I mean, there is a piece of the world that I think Terry and I have talked about, the word narcissistic, and we have to be nowadays. I mean, it's like, okay, we got to tell a story on Instagram, quick, snap a shot. You know, the world has become, you know, the influencers. I just was talking about, for one post, Kylie Jenner on Instagram makes $1 million. Yeah. Influencers, it's just the way of the world now, and we have to embrace it. It's a little tougher, I think, for our age group to be this way. I think it's the selfie thing was not something we grew up with, you know, whereas now this is normalcy to the millennials. So I think it's something that it's not egotistical, it's not narcissistic. It's we've got to build our brand. It's building your brand. And I think every company needs to do this in different ways, but I completely believe in collaborations and what you're saying about how you give to others too, and you need to give a shout out for yourself at times too. Mm-hmm.
No, I was speaking at Horseshoe Bay Resort in Texas last week, incidental credential. And the lady that was managing the resort was telling us that they have trouble hiring people of a certain age because they don't want to work. And I think more accurately, they don't mind working, but they want to do something that they really enjoy. Right. It's still waiting tables. You're at a high-end resort, but you're still waiting tables. And there's a whole generation of people coming up, Janet, to your point, who are called YouTubers, because they know if they work at YouTube for 40 hours a week, that they can get 4,000 hours viewing hours per year. They can get 1,000 subscribers. They can monetize their channel, and they can actually make a living from YouTube.
Yep. Number one career that kids want. Yep.
That's exactly right.
Yep.
So we're competing with those kids, in a certain way. I watch some of this stuff, and it's pretty silly, and I don't think anybody would ever confuse me for a gamer. But when you talk about traffic and working your way through the noise, we all have to get through all that other stuff in order to carve our niche and get our slice, right?
Yeah.
I'd like to know one other thing before we wrap up, and it's old school again. It's about, meeting people and trying to figure out how you can serve them or how they might be able to serve you. There have always been about 4 different types of personalities in the world. We know this because all of the personality assessments, Myers-Briggs, and Tony Alessandra's Platinum Rule, which is the one I like the best, offers 4 personality styles. Are the words coming across right side up?
So relator, socializer, thinker, and what was the 4th one for people that are just listening, not watching?
Sure, director's the 4th one.
Thank you.
And the idea is that when you meet somebody, if you can try to figure out who you're talking to, you can package your value proposition in a way that would be more warm to them. Because how you would address each of these 4 styles is different if you're paying attention. And it's the same way in the other direction. When we meet somebody at an event or see them online and we say, I don't know why everybody likes this person. I don't care for them at all. It's probably due to personality disparity. They're coming at you in a way that's not warm to you.
Well, and that's right. And the people that are on the opposite spectrum of us are always going to not be warm to us, right? It's because they really are opposite. And it doesn't matter if we're looking at Myers-Briggs or if we're looking at DISC or what we're looking at here. That's
exactly right. So just to finish up this graphic, the ones that we relate to the best are the ones in our quadrant, right? So if you're a relator, you're 25%, that 25% of the world is more warm to you. They're like kindred spirits, the kind of people you would say, I feel like I've known him for years, right? And to your point, Terry, your kryptonite, your mortal enemy is the person who is diametrically opposed to your quadrant. And anybody that wants to know more about this, just go to Tony Alessandra's the Platinum Rule website, and there's lots of information there about it. But that's never too far from my consciousness when I'm trying to interface with people and try to understand who they are and what they might mean to me, and vice versa.
Yeah, you're kicking the butt for me to finish my book. Janet, you gotta write your book, and now I gotta finish the one that I started a couple of years ago that's on this very topic, because relate-vertising is where we are right now. And so it's time. And you just nailed it from that perspective, because it's interesting, right? So Michael just held up a quadrant, right? Like, so if you look at a cross or an intersection and you plot yourself, the closer you are to the center, right, to the middle of that, the easier it is for you to relate to everybody regardless of the quadrant. The farther you are in the extreme,
here versus here.
Yeah.
That's exactly right. Because because your success isn't related to your personality style, it's related to adaptability. You can't change your personality style, but you can adapt to be with other people, right? So I think that's a big secret, and of course, people who are self-absorbed and people who it's a bunch of hoo-ha, they don't try, and then I think they have fewer connections, they have fewer fungible connections, right? This is my opinion anyway.
Wait a second. They have fewer what kind of connections?
Fungible.
Yeah. Janet, you're now Janet F. Johnson, and you're Janet Fungible Johnson from now on. What is this fungible of which you speak? I don't know that word.
Well, look it up, baby.
All right,
it's going to be the new in Wikipedia soon, yeah.
I can't wait. I'm looking forward to it.
We tell people that people they teach in schools and churches not to judge, but I think we're judging all the time. I don't know where that phrase came from. It's very politically correct. I'm not judging, right? But I mean, tell me you're walking down an alley at night and there's a person at the other end. Tell me you're judging that person. Or tell me if you're in charge of hiring at your company, you're passing judgment on the job candidate. Our judicial system is predicated on judgment. It's all over society. The top-rated television show of the last 10 years, all of them actually, American Idol, Chopped, the cooking show, is about judgment. So the important thing is not to prejudge, right? And so I think people judge us by, unfortunately or fortunately, if you're paying attention, it's good news, how we dress, how do we bathe in the morning, right? That's kind of important. The words we use, and the fastest way to grow your vocabulary, everybody, and present yourself as an educated person, because we all want to do business with people who are smarter than us, right? I don't want to hire consultants that know less than I do. And the fastest way to show somebody that you know something that they don't know is to use a word that they're unfamiliar with. And so there's a website called, actually all the online dictionaries do this, but the website I like is wordsmith.org. And the feature thing is called A.Word.A.Day, A-W-A-D. I think it's AWAD.com. And so every day I get a new word. Now, they all don't stick, but Fungible did.
Isn't that interesting? Terry, there's how you can get all your E-words now.
That's it. I used to have a word of the day back in the late 90s. So that we did A.W.A.D. every day. It was great. Of goods contracted.
I think that's why we have to put the word
individual
fungible in our title of this podcast.
maybe this is the most fungible podcast we've ever
Exactly.
had. That might be the title.
I would use that as a key.
Replace or be replaced by another identical item, mutually interchangeable. Fungible.
I wouldn't use fungible as a keyword, by the way. It's not highly searched.
No, probably not.
So, well, now we just gave away the big tip for the show. Great job. Don't use fungible as a keyword.
Yeah, exactly.
So we do need to work toward wrapping up. So to that end, Michael, if you could share one thing that was going to propel our audience to their next level of greatness, what would that be?
Well, we shared some great tips, I think, already today. It reminds me of the great joke, if you're on a beach and the genie grants you 3 wishes, one wish, what would you wish for? And the answer is 3 more wishes. If you'd like more tips from me, let's connect online. You know, I'm all over the place. I have a monthly mashup that's very cool, and it's not overburdening. You know, you get it once a month, and you can get it at my website, which is michaelangelocaruso.com. I'll also offer your listeners and viewers 2 free chapters of my latest book. The book is called Work Hacks, and you can get that at the website as well. It's a free download, and so 3 more wishes coming your way, everybody.
Very nice, very nice.
Awesome.
And I can find you as Michael Angelo Caruso virtually everywhere. Maybe not Twitter, right? Because Michelangelo Caruso does not fit on the Twitter.
No, Twitter and I got off to a bad start because I typed in my branded name and they said it's too many characters.
Yeah.
Michael A. Caruso on Twitter.
Okay. Yep. And I want to spell, just because, like, I'm from Minnesota and I'm a Johnson, so Caruso is a tougher word. So it's Caruso, just so people.
That's correct. And you know, an amazing number of people spell Michael wrong. So let's just do the whole thing. Michael, everyone. ANGELOCARUSO. And com, by the way, is COM, everybody.
Don't forget the dot. There's the dot. That's awesome.
That's awesome. Well, good. Well, and you can join our group, and our group is actually businessgrowthtime.xyz. So that's a little different. It's not a .com. And then we also have all our past episodes at businessgrowthtime.com/blog. And that's the way you can find all the past episodes too. But thank you so much, Michael, for joining us, and lots of intermixed tips throughout this. So I think it was just a great episode for our audience.
My pleasure.
Very, very fun, formative, which is like fungible, but totally different.
Let's flip the coin, and we'll do a podcast with each of you coming up this summer. Okay, guys?
That'd be great.
Awesome. Sounds great. Thank you.